You are listening to the Smart Betting Club podcast with me, your host, Peter Ling. Now, this podcast is sponsored by the Matchbook Betting Exchange, and you can find out more on what they offer smart bettors over at matchbook.com. And if you are interested in learning more what it takes to make a profit betting, please do check out my service for winning bettors over at smartbettingclub.com. Hi everyone, it's Pete here from SBC. Now, I just want to introduce this as part 2 of my conversation with Jose Ribeiro. And if you haven't listened to part 1, you can find that and worth listening to that first so it all actually makes sense. That's available on the Smart Betting Club podcast feed. Other than that, sit back and enjoy the second part of my conversation with Jose Ribeiro. We're going to keep the difficult questions coming. Jose, I think you're the man who can handle them.
Oh, my boy.
Well, I don't know if they're any more difficult, but I want to talk about some of the friction points because obviously restrictions are a part of this particular game. Deposit limits, banking. What do you see as the biggest issue, or all part of the same query, or part of the things you have to just navigate when it comes to this? I guess in the UK, you're not really operating so much. People aren't operating as much due to not just restrictions, but affordability limits. I guess banking is just a huge issue around the world when you're moving money with the way betting is viewed. Talk me through some of these friction points on those topics I've discussed and how you help or what people are doing to navigate some of the
friction points. If you are on a bookie side, I think Elio said this in the podcast recently. Multi-counting is the problem. So bookies need to kick off multi-counters because it's basically the same money always coming in. And they need to, in their business model, 99% of the bookies need to kick off winning bettors because it's easier to kick off those than to learn from them and do the operation like BetCris, those kind of bookies. On the player side, when you have a big scale, moving money is a problem, especially because you need money to live. So you need to use a lot of crypto. If you are in the United States or Canada, that's cool. Some countries are not so crypto friendly. And then you also have the legal and fiscal aspect of it. But I think things are about to change in the ecosystem once again, because when you start to have online gambling, you have the internet, like the Web 1. Web 1 was like when you went and you Google something. So you want to know about Newcastle, and then you Google Newcastle. Then you had Web 2, which is social media. People can create their own content. And now Web 3 is coming, and Web 3 with all the decentralized protocols. I think with Trump winning the election, and I think the world will be different, for sure, will be different in the next 4 years. I think we will see most of the countries following the steps of decentralized economics, industries, and process being more centralized. And I think that the groups and syndicates out there that need to understand these shifts, they need to put people inside to know how they can be more efficient, not only moving their money, but also what to do with the money, how to move it, where to keep it, what kind of industries, what kind of other things they can do with the money besides betting. Because I think the real game, it's not like an accumulation, like you have a bankroll, so you are winning money, so you are keeping accumulating for the bankroll. Sometimes when you have shitloads of money, which is not my case, but some groups have a lot of money, they need to put the money somewhere. They need to apply the money. Where are they going to invest the money?
Yeah.
They are going to create operations, they're going to create websites. Sometimes they can do products, build software, betting software, build bookies, create bookies, bigger syndicates. Most of the syndicates nowadays, they have their own bookie. But then they need to put more money, and they need to put money other places. And I think the industry itself is growing. You see more bookies. You see people like before I had my accident, I was in a shop with some runners, It was Friday night, and we were moving for some groups. And because I'm 45, I still can remember when I was 20 something. And me and my girlfriend back then, we were going to have dinner, go to a movie, go to a bar, and have sex. That's what we did. And I saw couples, boys and girls, from their 20s. They were playing at slots. They were playing at the roulettes in the casinos. And I said, this new generation, they want to have fun. They have their apps on their mobiles. So they are spending money in roulette. They're playing a game for cash. So the industry will keep on growing. Very good and efficient operations will keep on making money. So you need to find out ways to put that money, where to put that money, and how can you, besides the gambling, put that money to good use and still make money with that money. So you need to solve the equation how to bring it from your bankroll or from your operation into the economy and then put the money flowing. So I think that's one of the key issues. And I think with Trump winning the election, next 4 years will be very funny because I think you will see most of the countries, at least some of the countries, are giving steps into decentralization of some parts of their financial and economic systems. And finally, we need to be attentive because we can have chances to solve this money problem, I think.
Yeah.
Was this too complex? My
No,
thought process is complex. Sorry.
I think that's a great answer. I was going to ask you as the next question, really, where you think things are going. Obviously, we increase in the unregulated market, offshore black market, especially with people listening to the UK. And you can see that natural flow on into worlds like cryptocurrency because you look at, again, the UK, it's not really an evolved market there as it is in North America, where it's more established. And so there is that natural, when you look at offshore bookmakers, for example, previous podcast I had Pisky, who was talking about moving money, fiat currency into banks and trying to send them to Costa Rica and trying to send money to Costa Rica. Whereas now
Yeah.
you can just open up your crypto wallet and have that sent within two minutes. Whereas previously it might take you a week and then it costs you an extraordinary amount of money to just to send that.
Yes, I listened to that episode. It was very, very good. I've listened several episodes of Pisky and his stories how they made their money, their syndicate, the lotteries. Okay, but you are in the United States and Canada. You don't have the same problems. If you were in a country not so crypto friendly, the problems would scale. Those money
Yeah.
movement problems would scale. So I maintain what I said. I'm very curious, but I think Trump administration will take big steps into the decentralization of financial and economic systems. And I think most countries are going to do the same. Look, Pete, I know a little bit about Asia. I have a lot of friends there. I have very good friends there. I have very good friends in Macau, Hong Kong, Shenzhen. And these guys already won the war of industry. So, Europe nowadays, let's leave a little bit of the betting aside, but imagine Europe. We are in the middle of a Trump decentralized economics because it's the way they can keep on flowing. And you have Europe in the middle, and then you have all the industry and tech products coming from Asia into Europe, and then you have two wars on your doors. We have very nice challenges here. This will affect everything because if people have less money in their pockets, they will lose less money in the gambling industry. If they lose less money in the gambling industry, people who win money in the gambling industry will win less money.
Mm-hmm.
We can sometimes, I have this discussion among people in the syndicates and big groups. They say, you are part of a thing, you are an industry inside a much bigger picture. So when you ask me, where are things moving on forwards? I don't know. I have an expectation that groups need to understand where money is being made, where kids are being born, kids are making 18, kids are coming into the game, kids are going to spend money into the game. I think, for instance, the Baltic countries, they have a challenge nowadays. If I had an operation in the Baltic countries, I would consider changing or moving part of my operation elsewhere. I think this is a geopolitical thing, but it will affect. I have friends in Romania, and the country is changing. Taxation is changing, but also the country and the laws are changing. So I think the syndicates and the groups need to have people thinking as industries and taking decisions not only where to bet, where I have the edges, but thinking this in a more structured manner and thinking this like if this was an industry, other things. Like if you are selling something, you just want to go and move to a market when you know that the potential of buyers in that market is bigger. So if you want to move your operations, try to understand how many people are going to spend money there. I was very overwhelmed by seeing so many couples on their 20s playing the roulette and some slots. It was something that was not cultural 5, 10 years ago. And now they go to have fun, not to the cinemas, not with friends to bars, but they go to casinos and they go and play. They play for money and they lose money. So it's there for the grabs.
Well, you say you're curious, you're a deep thinker, and that's all all comes out as you talk there. Let's then pivot to talking about actual some of the sports and markets. We've touched on some of those prior in this chat, but what sports or markets do you currently target or have a preference for? Maybe which are on the decline, which are on the rise from that perspective? You mentioned European basketball. I think you've talked about darts in the past being a sport you'd like to get into betting. Are there other ones that are growing that pique your interest?
One thing I can say, I'm disappointed with esports. I thought esports was having a massive rise, especially after COVID. I thought, okay, this is a new breed of sports bettor arises.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not seeing that. I'm very concerned with the races. The races, they have two problems. One of them is that the age of the average spender and bettor in the races is very high compared to other markets. And so I think in 10 years' time, hounds and horses, unless something happens somewhere in the globe, but I will see them, some racetracks probably out of business. European basketball is very difficult to have a different opinion from the syndicates. You have all the syndicates on the same side. So I think it's a matter of time to be very difficult to bet there. I think we have 2, 3 more years of some value, and then it's going to be very difficult market to bet on. I like a lot handball and other sports that are not so low scoring because they are more easy to model. I think handball has very difficult limits, it's very difficult to execute, but it's very interesting as a sport. And I think depends, but the offer could be better. I hate volleyball. I simply don't like it. I think it's a live sport, not a pre-live sport. It's very difficult to bet volleyball. And the American sports are very difficult. I think you need to be very efficient and you need to print a lot of volume because the edges are so thin, especially NHL, NFL. So I don't want to deal with those. Maybe the props market's there, but only that. And then if you ask me where I see the most potential, I would say for sure cricket. Cricket is a massive live volume. It's very big. And I think if I was going to spend time and money in quants, I would try to build something to bet live, cricket live, I think. The Indian market is very huge, full of biases, and I think could be very important to make money because the volume is so high. That's all I'm going to say about sports.
Well, interesting. Obviously, cricket with the amount of money that goes through that. Obviously, some of those markets, the Asian markets into India and places like that, where it's a huge sport, you can absolutely see that. I was going to ask you, actually, I meant to ask you earlier, what's better from your perspective, people listening? Is it better to be an originator or is it going to be better to be a mover, someone who gets bets down from the perspective? Again, goes back to
Mover for sure.
the mover for sure. Yeah.
Mover for sure. If you have the right skill set and patience, to be a good mover, you need to be patient. You can work with people sending you good signs. You don't need to waste time, money trying understand and mathematize a phenomena. Even if you are a very good programmer, big machine learning models keep all the time, they are always looking at that. They are always and constantly looking at their process thing because the models are maps, right? So these machines are giving you maps and then you need to read these maps. So it's a process that keeps you constantly focused and attention. And if you make a mistake, you are going to lose a lot of money. And me as a mover, I can choose if I want to put money or not in that operation. Either I can move it and I can have a small profit share, or I can put a small turnover fee and have no liability whatsoever. So for sure, movers can make more money because they can decide what they want to do.
And that goes back to the strategy and about the execution as well. And the best ones know how to maximize their edge and minimize friction points and issues. So it all makes sense. And before I get on to a bit of a list of advice section at the end, I want to ask you, I've had, we've talked to Matthew Trenhale before, and he works now in consulting, obviously worked at Pinnacle and various other smart bookmakers, sharp bookmakers in the past, but he works with both betting groups and also bookmakers. He will work with both. What's your perspective? Do you only work with the betting side of it, the punting side of it, or have you consulted, or do you work, or have you worked with the bookmaking side?
I am too afraid of the dark side to have deals with them. So I don't want to interact with bookies. I don't want to. I don't think I have the skill set to help them whatsoever. I would, if by any chance a bookie approached me and they said, "Look, we would like to have your opinion on this," I would probably not was going to be able to work with them. If I would do it, I could not do it halfway, and I think I would betray. I was betraying everybody I worked with previously, and I think I could not do that for $1 million. Not even 2 million. I wouldn't do it.
There you go. You've got to start at $2 million. Any bookmakers
I'm a
listening?
good friend of Matthew, and he has a different skill set. He started as FedEx. He's one of the most brilliant minds in the industry, and I think everybody
Yeah.
should want to work with him. But he has a different skill set. My skill set is more round based. I'm operations. He's more big thinker. He's much more brighter than and much more knowledgeable than me.
Don't put yourself down. Come on, this is really good stuff.
I'm not, but you cannot compare me with one of the people I think is the most intelligent. There are 3 or 4 people I think in the industry are very, very smart. And he's one of them. I'm not going to name the others because I don't want to spend 1 minute ass licking anybody here. But he's one of the most brilliant people I have ever met. Besides, he's a good friend. But I just want you to know I think I could not do it, but I also feel I don't have the skill set to do it. So it's a mix.
This podcast is sponsored by the Matchbook Betting Exchange. When it comes to betting exchanges, Matchbook has been my personal go-to for some time now. Using horse racing as an example, they've offered the best prices on the most runners this year, which can make a big difference to your bottom line. Plus, with an industry-leading score of 4.2 on Trustpilot, you know you're in safe hands. Download the Matchbook Betting Exchange app or go to matchbook.com today. And if you enter the code SBC150, that's SBC150 on sign up, you can get commission free for your first 150 days, which can give you even more value. If you need to place a larger or more bespoke bet, or are indeed a corporate or operator client, their brokerage service is excellent and available 365 days a year. For more details, email the team at brokerage@matchbook.com. Matchbook Betting Exchange is for bettors who know better. I want to end things off. I mean, we've been going for a good hour and a quarter now, I think, but I really wanted to do a bit of a listener advice section and put a couple of concepts down because we talked, in some high level terms about...
Finally, some easy questions. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah. Finish things off with an easy end. So for the people listening, we talked about some general topics. We talked about large groups and moving money and, friction points and crypto and all these kind of topics. But what about someone listening going, do you know what? I like betting. Maybe they are making a small profit from it. Maybe they're making a bigger profit. Maybe they're looking to build on that. I'm sure everyone's always looking to make more. So I've got two scenarios. I want to get your advice on what you would recommend to do from a betting perspective. So the first one would be those people that have, maybe they've won a small amount, but they basically have access to betting with soft firms, whether that's for their own accounts, through others, it doesn't really matter, but they have access to do that. What you would do if you had soft firms, and that could be, products or services or whatever you wish to advise. And then we'll also, after that, look at what you might do if you're limited to exchanges or shops. Let's hit the soft firms. Let's say I give you a suite of accounts with all the main soft bookmakers. What would Jose do, or what would you recommend just a casual bettor actually do to maximize their profits?
Point number one, I would not steam chase because I would lose those accounts really quickly. I would like to preserve those accounts as much time as I could. So the first thing I would like to say, these guys could go into a forum. There are still some pretty decent forums out there, and they could read articles, read how people do to preserve those accounts. That's number one. I think if you want to make a bet for fun, do it. If you want to make money with those bets, if you want to really make money with those bets, you need to study hard. And when I say study, I'm not saying you need to create your own model. I'm saying you need to know everything there is to know about the ecosystem you are in. So, what are the providers? Which providers? Which accounts have white labels? What are those white labels? What's the limits? How are the max limits? How do they behave? So everything there is to know about a bookie, you should know. So bet less and try to understand more. I think I started to say I'm a curious person. I think curiosity is very important. I think the second thing I would like to say is honesty is very important. You need to be very honest. And I'm not talking with others. I'm not saying you need to be honest with others. I'm just saying you need to be honest with yourself. So when you win one bet and you lose five bets, did you martingale and you won? Then you are 100 quid profit. Was that process? Was that process good? You just won money, but was it good? Was it very jeopardy? Will it jeopardy you? Are you going to lose many accounts, many bankrolls? How many bankrolls did you lose? Okay, you double your money, but how is your P&L? So I think honesty is key. And I think I would not start to use all those accounts. I would try to understand which accounts are sisters and brothers from other accounts. I would use them all at the same time. I would go to forums and I would eventually seek people that might have an edge. And I say, look, I have some accounts. I would like to bet small money for you. Would it interest you? And they said yes or no. And then start small, keep the pace. The bettors that make money are not the bettors that are very intelligent, are the bettors that have a process and every day they do the process. From Monday to Sunday, they are always doing the same pace at their own rhythm and never stop. Advices, read, study, and be honest.
Good information.
This is one part. You said to me the second part of the question, but you need to repeat it, please.
Well, it's again the same, but those people there's quite a high proportion of people who are limited or had accounts closed down by soft bookmakers. How would then that would change if they had to pivot to just using exchanges, shops, offshores, all those places that generally don't limit?
Everybody limits, even Betfair limits, but they call it
Premium charge.
in a fee. So it's, yeah, so premium charge is a limitation. But I think people that are sharp and win money, I think they know what they need to do. I think, Pete, they know what they think to do. Maybe what I could tell these people is that they should try to change their MO a little bit. Maybe try to do some parlays, try to, if you have an account, let's say you have an account and you make 10 bets and you lose the account and you make 2,000 quid on it, which is enough. In England, I'm not sure if you have those levels, but okay, 2,000 quid. If you were using parlays and system bettings, luckies, and other kind of stuff, could you have done more? I think that's what these people need to do. They think not to do the same mistakes, because the mistakes they have made prior, if they don't eliminate them, if they don't eliminate those mistakes, they will not evolve. So they need to clean up those mistakes and do a different process, improve their process. So I think honesty once again. What can I do better? Was I wrong in this decision? I think it's very simple. It's like honesty and process. Honesty and process. It's easy to make money. It's easy to invest. The difficult part is this. Keep the process flowing, keep the same process, and be very honest with yourself, I think.
Good advice. And when you come to things like soft bookmaker accounts, obviously you're using multiples and parlays as a way to keep the money flowing, keep the bets flowing. Do you season those accounts? And by which I mean prime them. Do you put in a whole bunch of negative EV or level EV bets?
First of all, 90% of our bets are doing on retail, so kiosks. So that's one. I have some groups moving with me online. And yes, accounts need to be primed. But also, if you are using systems and parlays, it's more difficult for the bookies to profile you, because you are betting three different spots, different timings, different timing to market. Sometimes some of the legs of those parlays are big leagues. They don't have EV whatsoever. EV has been extracted, and we are talking 2, 3, 4% margins of EV. So it's very difficult to profile those accounts. If you ask me, if I was having an operation on the 365s of the world, everybody makes money in the 365s. So yeah, I might have primed the account a little bit, but I wouldn't lose much time. If I'm using accounts like Bet365 in single bet, I would use only live betting. I would not do anything pre-live, pre-game.
Almost goes down to knowledge as well about how each bookmaker works.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, BetVictor, if you take Steam with a company like BetVictor, you will probably have your account closed before any of the first bets you've taken have settled, because they're just quick on that, right? So you understand which firms have good processes internally to spot people and different types of bets. And if, for example, you season an account, it doesn't make any difference. Well, there's no point. But then if it does, you need to know that information, don't you?
We are not going to talk about profiling of accounts, but I lost one time one account at William Hill. I had a friend on Ireland, and he sent me his William Hill account, and I'm not sure if I made 200 euro deposit, because it was an Irish account. I think it was like 200 or 300. And I went immediately to take a look at one game. And so this is an Irish account, Portuguese citizen living in Ireland, sending me one account, deposit 300 euros or 200 euros through Skrill. And then I went to tier 3 or tier 4 football. And then I click, and then I hit the max, and then they said, okay, you can only bet this. And then I said, okay, so bet this. And then they said, your account is limited. And I didn't make one single bet, and I lost the account. So I told a funny story also in a podcast recently. I lost one account because I made a whale account I had. I lost it because I made some bets on badminton. So it's very difficult. I think the UK ecosystem still remains, because you have a massive number of punters that goes to see the Spurs, and they want to throw one punt at it. But it's not, besides the exchanges still and maybe some black market, it's very difficult to make money there. But I'm not sure why we're talking about this now. But I just want to say that the priming of the accounts, it's linked to the execution that you are going to have.
You mentioned there, just to round things off, you mentioned obviously living in the UK, you wouldn't have the ability to make much money from betting. Well, where would you live if you could? The idea, we've heard the term digital nomad before, people who work online from around the world. We might know people doing this already, effectively being a betting nomad and pivoting from countries whereby betting is more open or more opportunities available to you. Is that something that you're seeing people do, or you think it's actually a theoretical idea that you could actually really do in real life?
Yes, I think people should walk around. Ecosystems are changing constantly. The Kazakh ecosystem some years ago was different than what it is now because some organized, very sharp syndicates made the ecosystem change. I'm not going to names because I don't want to give names in this episode. But yes, some ecosystems change. And I think the best way for people to evolve is like meet people. Go to the Smart Bash, go to the Bet Bash, meet people, talk to people. And talk to people, ask them things like how much money makes an average people in Spain? What's the salary there? How does that compare to other country? There are some things I could say. I'm not going to sorry for that, but there are some countries I think could offer very good opportunities nowadays. I think for me it's a mystery what's going to happen for Brazil in 20 days because they will pivot completely to a legalized jurisdiction. But I think also I'm going to give you a name. I think it would be very interesting to understand Peru. You have very good bookies there, good offers. They have also retail offers. So it's far away. Maybe to buy a house or to rent something, it's not expensive. I think people should constantly be curious.
And that extends to where you live as much as it does who you bet with and maybe what sports or how you bet. No, really interested. Maybe we'll have some Peruvian listeners in the future who report back on what's going on there. But yeah, that's really good advice. And Jose, I've kept you, what are we now, an hour and a half? But thank you so much for your time, for sharing your expertise. I've long wanted to tap into your knowledge, and I know you're a man that, has so much to share. And I feel like I've learned a great deal today.
I thank you for the opportunity of being here. We are friends, so it's no big deal. I just want to thank you, and if by any chance someone wants to discuss some of these topics, either through you or send me an email or something like that, it's pretty okay. I'm open to conversations with everybody, even if they don't agree. Especially if they don't agree, I think
Yeah.
there is a way to learn from it. Most of the things I've said are my vision of the whole ecosystem. Probably some things are not accurate. Probably some things are partially accurate. And that's it. I want to thank you. I want to you and your listeners to have a very good holidays for now with kids. It's a kids time now, Christmas. And hope to see you next year with my foot better or even in Barcelona in ice. Not sure if you come or not, but we'll see. And for sure, we will see each other in Smart Bash 2025. Thank you very much, Pete.
You're welcome. Is there a way people can get in touch, or is it just you can contact me and I'll put them in touch with you? Is that the best way?
Well, I have an X account. I'm really bad in talking to people on X. Basically, I don't have the skill set to talk much on, but the best way to contact me is through Telegram. Maybe you can drop my Telegram link or my email, and that's fine.
Okay.
And people, please be nice. I'm just open to new ideas, new conversations. And if you don't agree with me, especially if you don't agree with something, please hop in and let's chat.
Exactly. And if you're a bookmaker, the entry point is 2 million and upwards.
No, it's very difficult. I would still need the approval of my conscience, and I probably could not do this if I was coping with the bookmakers.
There we go. I'm glad you were on our side, though, Jose. I'm definitely glad you were working on the betting side and the punter side. So, yeah, thank you again for sharing the wisdom. Wish you a quick recovery with your foot and look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.